What is going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday. Harris Rubenstein here for no longer NBA Weekly. It is now, well, I suppose, NBA Now. We have a whole new look, a whole new show, and a great couple of segments on tap for you guys today. I'm your host, as always, Harris Rubenstein. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsThean for all your NBA news and updates as we continue through probably the slowest part of the NBA year as we stand right now. I want to give a couple shout outs that we got a couple guys in YouTube currently sitting in class. My boy Little Wapo chilling in cooking class right now. Let us know what you're cooking up today. And then we got Swack, who's in math class right now. Just remember, if you go to Emerson College like I did, you can make it through all of college without having a single math class. I did not take a single math class in college. It was great. I aced it in high school and didn't have to touch it. But let's get into a couple NBA rumors because we have a lot to get to today. Let's start with DeMarcus Cousins. Steve Kerr gave us some good news saying that he is right on schedule and has no setbacks as of right now. We still do not have a concrete date on when DeMarcus Cousins is going to come back. We do know he's probably going to be back playing probably around December, January. There's an expectation he'll be back before the All-Star break, but they're not going to bring him back until he's fully 100%. Though it doesn't really matter, seeing as he has looked so good. All the little videos that DeMarcus Cousins has been posting has been him shooting like 200 threes a day, which just isn't fair. There's going to be a fourth splash, well, I guess third splash brother, but just a fourth elite three-point shooter on this team, along with Durant, Steph, and Clay. I'm excited to see what Boogie is going to do from behind the arc. This Warriors team is going to have such a different look to it with DeMarcus Cousins on it, because obviously last year we saw a very movement-based offense. Obviously, Steve Kerr loves to use picks to get Steph Curry and the likes of Klay Thompson open. But with DeMarcus Cousins in town now, I think they're going to run a lot more pick and roll, a lot more pick and pop on this offense. Cousins is going to give them so many different looks on both sides of the ball. I wonder what Cousins is going to be like on defense when he comes back, but it's not really going to matter because the Warriors, they're going to score so many points. They're going to score so many points this year. If they don't lead the NBA in scoring when DeMarcus Cousins comes back, then I'm not Jewish. Like, it makes no sense at all that this Warriors team is not going to be maybe the best offensive team in the history of basketball once Boogie comes back. Until then, I don't think this team is going to really care that much. They're going to have a really slow regular season until Boogie comes back just because, what's the point? They're going to make it to the playoffs and back to the finals anyway. So let me know in the comment section below, how many games will DeMarcus Cousins play this season? Personally, I think he'll end up paying about 40, maybe 30, 35 games this year. Probably come back around January. So I say about 35 games for DeMarcus Cousins before the playoffs. Don't count the playoffs because he's obviously going to play every single playoff game, and we don't know how many playoff games the Warriors could play. They could play the minimum. They could go 7 games in every series. We have no idea. Let me know in the comment section below how many games DeMarcus Cousins will play this season. Let's go to our next rumor here. This is something that came up this weekend when the trade happened with Ryan Anderson and the Suns. Apparently, the Suns are looking for a starting point guard because they apparently watch NBA Now and been hearing me plead them to find a point guard for this team because they do not have one right now. And apparently they've been calling around for some pretty elite point guards. They called the Trailblazers about Damian Lillard. They called the Hornets about Kemba Walker. And they called the Celtics about Terry Rozier. And if you look at their rotation right now, they obviously got Ryan Anderson from the Rockets. Who's going to play point guard? They got the Anthony Melton, but he was a second-round pick. He hasn't actually played full basketball in a year. He got suspended last year from USC. Devin Booker, obviously he's a shooting guard. He might play kind of a James Harden pseudo point guard role, but they don't have a pure starting point guard. So I got 5 point guards the Suns could trade for right now. Terry Rozier, obviously number 1. He's going to be the next point guard in the NBA traded. Similar to Reggie Jackson when he was on the Thunder. I think the Celtics are going to keep Rozier for 1 more year just because I think they want to see how this group of guys does. But Rozier is absolutely on the block for a team that needs a starting point guard. If the Nets want to move on from Spencer Dinwiddie, he could be an option as well. Obviously, that depends a lot on the play of D'Angelo Russell. Kemba Walker is always going to be included in any point guard trade until he gets a new extension from the Hornets. I like Patrick Beverley on that team. I think it would give him a really good defensive identity because Devin Booker is not a great defender. But if you can have Patrick Beverley on the court at the same time as Josh Jackson and Trevor Ariza, that's a pretty good setup. And then our fifth guy there is George Hill, just in case the Suns want to get a more veteran point guard on the roster, though that's a little bit expensive for them. They already took Ryan Anderson's ridiculous contract. So if George Hill's getting paid $20 million, I don't think the Suns are going to make a move for him. But this whole Damian Lillard's going to get traded thing, this is now the second team that has tried to trade for Damian Lillard this offseason. We'll get to the Portland Trail Blazers later when we go through my Western Conference projected rankings. But for now, Lillard ain't going anywhere. Maybe next year, but for now, he's going to stay in Portland. Let's go to Melo because Carmelo Anthony just can't stay out of the headlines, whether it's good or bad. So Melo, Klay Thompson, Luke Walton are all in Qatar right now doing a little NBA world trip. So Klay Thompson posted a great Instagram photo that says future Big Three champs. And like I said, it's Melo, it's Klay, and Luke Walton. But what was even better than the actual post was the Instagram comments coming after it, because all of the NBA players started to crap on Melo for being included in this post. You got Nick Young at the top throwing up some laughing faces. You got Draymond Green throwing up some laughing faces as well. And then you got Carmelo Anthony with the not safe for work, fuck out of here Instagram comment, because Melo is just so tired of people dragging his name through the mud. Now he's being talked about going to the Big Three. The poor guy, we all got to start laying off Melo a little bit. He's having absolutely none of this offseason, especially that whole Hawks thing on Twitter. I'm stunned that Melo didn't end up responding to that one. But with that being said, I thought it'd be kind of fun to list a couple players who would be really fun to see in the Big Three. Now, I didn't include LeBron or Kevin Durant. I want to include some older players that actually have a legitimate chance of going to the Big Three. So we got Melo as one of those guys. Jamal Crawford would be a perfect player for the Big Three. Dirk would be awesome. Dwight Howard would be just an absolute chaotic whirlwind for the Big Three to come in there. And I got D-Wade in there as well, depending on whether, he comes back and plays this year or decides to move on. But those are some guys who I could see in the Big Three. Let me know in the comments section below, what former NBA player or current NBA player do you want in the Big Three? We know that Kobe already has said no, and has said no multiple times by now. But Ice Cube is literally willing to sign anyone to the Big Three right now if they're a big enough name. He's talked, he says he wants Kevin Garnett, he says he wants Paul Pierce, but I don't know. We can see what happens. But let me know in the comments section below, what former NBA player do you want in the Big Three? Gilbert Arenas, we got a comment coming in here from Daddy Smokes Yams. That would be a lot of fun. Gilbert Arenas would be super awesome. Swag says, I still believe Kobe will join. Kobe's not playing basketball anymore, people. It's not going to happen. He's loving retirement. He's loving nurturing all these all the young kids. He's helping Jason Tatum with his game, helping Markelle Fultz as well. So I don't think Kobe's coming back to professional basketball anytime soon. But this edition of NBA Now is presented by BetDSI. They have over 20 years in business and have a great customer service. And if you guys ever need help, you can hit them up. You can also hit us up because you need to use our promo code CHAT120, get a 120% bonus. What does that mean? You deposit $100, you get $120 for a grand total, here's some math, of $220 to bet with. Head to chatsports.com/bet to use that deposit bonus today. Again, promo code CHAT120. All right, let's get to something that we talked about on our last show, and it's the 76ers, saga with their GM candidates. So we know that the 76ers have interviewed 3 candidates. They interviewed the Warriors' Larry Harris, the Rockets' Gerson Rosas, and the Jazz's Justin Zanuck for their GM position. This obviously coming off the 76ers firing Jerry Colangelo. An interesting name that's not on there is Mike Zarin of the Boston Celtics, who's Danny Ainge's assistant GM. There are a lot of good names on this. I think Justin Zanuck is probably the best name on that list. He's done a really good job with the Utah Jazz of helping them develop a lot of their young talent. Gerson Rosas is obviously one of the great disciples of Daryl Morey in Houston. And then Larry Harris, the assistant GM for the Warriors, has done so many good things for them in terms of seeking out players and helping get them to the Warriors. He was actually a big part of getting Durant to the Warriors, obviously, so were the rest of their roster, but Larry Harris was obviously in on that as well. Let's go to our next rumor here. Dwyane Wade, now, throwback to Jordan Giorgio every single day asking me if Dwyane Wade was going to come back to the NBA, and me saying, I don't know, nor do I really care because Dwyane Wade isn't that good anymore. But it seems that Dwyane Wade is going to be coming back this year. He's apparently, quote, he seems inclined to play this year in what will be his 16th year in the NBA. Now, have no fear, Miami Heat fans. If he does come back, he will be coming back as a member of the Miami Heat. But I just wonder, why is Dwyane Wade coming back? Like, I know I don't really know what the reason is for Dwyane Wade to come back anymore. Like, I guess competitive fire, but I mean, his son's a junior in high school. He's got a great wife in Gabrielle Union. He has a great brand that he's selling in China right now. Not really sure what Dwyane Wade is going to be doing coming back to the NBA, especially because this Miami Heat team just doesn't have a lot to it. I mean, he was good last year for a couple games for the Heat, but I mean, he looked pretty overmatched in the playoffs. I don't know. I would like to see Dwyane Wade go out on top, though I think him playing one more year than retiring might be a little bit more fitting than playing a year, not really knowing what he's going to do, and then just randomly retiring. I think he wants to go out with a little more pizzazz than he would be going out right now. And also, as our psycho-powered Shuba is mentioning on YouTube, why not make some more money? That's a good point. Why not make more money? Speaking of money, that is why the Houston Rockets traded Ryan Anderson. They finally got rid of his horrible, horrible contract that they signed him to a couple of years ago. They traded him along with D'Anthony Melton to the Suns. They got back Brandon Knight and Marquise Chris. This is a very good trade, I think, for both sides. A, the Rockets get rid of Ryan Anderson's contract, which they were desperately trying to do all offseason long. All offseason, they've been trying to get rid of Ryan Anderson's contract. That dude could just not be paid the amount of money he was getting paid by sitting on the bench and not playing in the playoffs. Now, they did have to give up their best young asset in D'Anthony Melton. He was their top pick in the last draft. He was a very good point guard prospect, really good defender on the perimeter. But the Houston Rockets got back some good pieces. I like Brandon Knight on that team. He's going to be a very good backup point guard for them. He's going to be way better than anything that Michael Carter-Williams is going to bring them. And then Marquise Chris is a nice guy for them to play as well down low. He's not Clint Capella. I saw this weird comparison yesterday that the Rockets are going to turn Marquise Chris into the next Clint Capella, which doesn't really make sense because they're completely different players, and that just doesn't make sense at all. Marquise Chris is going to be a nice guy for them to kind of run the floor, give them a little rebounding. He maybe can help a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but overall, he's just depth and a good young piece for them to try to develop. But let me know, who won the trade? Give me an S for the Suns, give me an R for the Rockets. I think the Rockets won. I think, as Swack says, the Phoenix Suns got robbed. They got absolutely robbed. D'Anthony Melton's a nice player, but why take on that Ryan Anderson contract? And also, why take him on and then tell him he's going to start? Why would you start Ryan Anderson on this team? Like, Bill Simmons had a great tweet the other day that says if your team looking to dump a contract, just wait a couple months in the offseason and call up the Hawks, the Kings, and the Suns, and they'll take your guy for nothing. Like, the Rockets were desperate to get rid of Ryan Anderson's contract, and they actually got back two pretty good players from the Suns. I think they got killed. I think the Rockets won the trade. Let's go to Chris Bosh, because I really want to see Chris Bosh back in the NBA. Obviously, he has to be healthy first and not be a threat to die on the court. But Chris Bosh was asked if he'd be willing to come to the Los Angeles Lakers. He says, quote, "It'd be the Lakers show plus the old man show," which I love. He said that he knows he can still ball and that he wants one more shot at the NBA. He also said he knows that this would be his last chance, but he does want another chance to play. Now, he hasn't been cleared by NBA doctors. If you're wondering why Chris Bosh had to leave the NBA, he has a big time blood clotting issue, which also has an issue with his heart. So it could, worst case scenario, Chris Bosh is playing basketball, has a blood clot that gets to his heart, and he just dies on the court. That's the risk that Chris Bosh would be taking if he starts playing basketball again. Like, he's on blood thinners, but if you're on blood thinners, they won't let you play in the NBA because, again, on those blood thinners, if you got some sort of cut on your wrist, there isn't a lot of clotting that your blood would be able to do, and you could literally just bleed out and die. So not really something that Chris Bosh probably wants to mess around with, but if he's willing to make another shot, another chance at the NBA, all the power to him, really. All the power to Chris Bosh. I really hope that he can make another run at the NBA. It really sucks that his NBA is going to have, or his NBA career, is going to have to end this way. But like Gavin Hall says on YouTube, health is more important, and so is, actually staying alive. But our clothing today is presented by Mizzen and Main. If you're wondering why I look so good in this shirt, it's not just because we have some brand new beautiful graphics on today's show. It's because I'm wearing a Mizzen and Main shirt. Head to comfortable.af to get yours today. My entire closet is filled with these. I have 8 of these shirts. They are so unbelievably comfortable. They are the #1 button-down shirt that you will find anywhere. And not to mention, they have a lot of other great clothes as well. So head to www.comfortable.af to get your Mizzen and Main shirt. Thank you again for coming along with us today. Let's go to our last piece of news here. Apparently, the Minnesota Timberwolves like Luol Deng and Joakim Noah because Tom Thibodeau is still living in 2012. So this is wild to me because if you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves roster right now, they already have three of Tom Thibodeau's old players from the Chicago Bulls. They have Derrick Rose, which I can't believe that he's still in the NBA. Props to him, though. He's making a nice comeback. They have the eternal Taj Gibson, who that dude's going to play until he's 50 years old. He might be 50 years old right now. I really don't know. And then they also just so happen to have Jimmy Butler, obviously the star of that Bulls team, along with Derrick Rose. Now they're going to add Joakim Noah and Luol Deng. They can make an entire starting 5 out of the 2012 Bulls on this Minnesota Timberwolves team. That's not a very good thing, seeing as all 5 of them outside of Jimmy Butler aren't very good anymore. I guess Taj Gibson would be the next best guy in that list of players, but that's too many old Bulls. That's way too many old Bulls. I know that Tom Thibodeau loves his guys, but that's just ridiculous. That is way too many old, bad players. The Minnesota Timberwolves are turning into the Oakland Raiders of the NBA, but just signing all these random old guys and expecting them to be as good as they used to be. It's not going to work out. Let Luol Deng go to a team that actually needs him. I don't even know where Joakim Noah is going to go. That guy has a lot of soul searching to do in terms of where he's going to play basketball next.